Welcome to Space Matrix. Please subscribe and hit the bell icon for more updates. Imagine a giant chessboard, but instead of pawns and knights, the pieces are powerful warships gliding across the waves, their presence a show of strength and strategy. Coast Guard vessels too play their part, patrolling, watching, and sometimes confronting, each move calculated in this high-stakes maritime game. The board itself? The vast, unpredictable expanse of the South China Sea, stretching as far as the eye can see, dotted with ships of all kinds. The prize at stake is staggering. Control over $26 trillion worth of natural resources, vital shipping lanes, and global trade that fuels economies around the world. This isn't just a regional dispute. It's a real-life power play, with China, the Philippines, and the United States all vying for influence, each with their own ambitions and strategies. Whoever controls these waters holds sway over one of the world's most critical arteries, a lifeline for global commerce, energy supplies, and economic stability. For generations, these seas were the quiet domain of fishermen, their livelihoods tied to the tides. Now they share the waters with imposing military vessels, a stark reminder of shifting priorities and rising tensions. The tension here is almost tangible, a silent standoff where a single misstep could spark international crisis, with consequences that ripple far beyond these waters. Around the globe, journalists, analysts, and world leaders watch closely, aware that every maneuver, every negotiation could tip the balance in this unfolding drama. At its heart, this is a clash of visions. One nation's quest for dominance versus the principles of international law and the idea of shared access for all. The Philippines, with the backing of the United States, stands resolute, championing the cause of a free and open sea, where all nations can navigate and prosper. This is the very core of the $26 trillion power play, a contest that's about far more than territory. It's about the future of global order. It's a struggle for resources, for influence, and for the rules that will shape how nations interact for decades to come. The stakes could not be higher. The outcome of this contest may well determine not just who controls these waters, but how the world's great powers coexist in the years ahead. The South China Sea is vital for the Philippines, a nation whose fate is deeply intertwined with these waters. The country is an archipelago of over 7,000 islands, scattered like emeralds across the sea, each one relying on the ocean for connection and sustenance. For millions of Filipinos, the South China Sea is their lifeblood, providing food security and livelihoods. Every day, fishermen set out before dawn, braving unpredictable weather and uncertain waters, hoping for a good catch to feed their families and communities. But the sea is more than just a source of food, it's a highway to the world. Massive cargo ships pass through these waters, carrying goods to and from the Philippines, fueling the nation's economy and connecting it to global markets. Generations of Filipino fishermen have depended on these waters, passing down skills and traditions that are now threatened by growing tensions. For China, the South China Sea is not just a body of water, it's a matter of historical right, national pride, and crucial security. The Chinese government sees control over these waters as essential to its strategic interests and regional influence. The sea serves as a gateway for China's navy, allowing it to project power far from its shores, and as a shipping superhighway, with trillions of dollars in trade passing through each year. Two nations, each with deep-rooted interests and historical claims, now find themselves in a delicate dance of diplomacy and rivalry, both laying claim to the same waters. The result is a tense and sometimes dangerous environment, where small fishing boats often find themselves face-to-face with giant Coast Guard vessels, and the threat of confrontation is never far away. The geography of the region only adds to the complexity. Tiny islands, reefs, and rocky outcrops, some barely visible at high tide, have become powerful symbols of national pride and sovereignty. Under international law, owning even the smallest island can grant a nation exclusive economic rights to vast stretches of sea, including the resources beneath it. These rights include the ability to fish, drill for oil, and extract gas within that zone, resources that could transform a nation's fortunes. Even a barren rock, seemingly insignificant, can become the key to unlocking immense potential wealth and strategic advantage. This is why nations go to extraordinary lengths to assert control, building structures, conducting military exercises, and establishing a presence on disputed islands. The stakes are incredibly high, with the outcome of these disputes having the power to reshape the entire region's political and economic landscape. The South China Sea is not just a regional issue, it's a flashpoint with global implications, drawing the attention of world powers and shaping the future of international relations in Asia and beyond. At the heart of the dispute is a map that has come to symbolize not just lines on paper but the fate of millions who depend on the sea for their survival and prosperity. China's so-called nine-dash line stretches across nearly 90% of the South China Sea, encompassing vast waters rich in resources and strategic value. This sweeping claim covers areas alarmingly close to the shores of the Philippines and Vietnam, putting neighboring countries on edge and raising tensions throughout the region. For the Philippines, this is not just a legal or political issue, it's an outrageous encroachment on their sovereignty and a direct threat to the livelihoods of their coastal communities. According to international law, particularly the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, the Philippines has a clearly defined exclusive economic zone, or EEZ, extending 200 nautical miles from its coast. Yet, China's 9-dash line almost completely overlaps with this EEZ, creating a legal and practical deadlock that affects fishing, oil exploration, and national security. Filipino fishermen who have relied on these waters for generations now find themselves facing Chinese Coast Guard ships, often being chased away or harassed in what they consider their own traditional fishing grounds. In 2013, the Philippines decided to take a stand, bringing the dispute before an international tribunal in The Hague, seeking a peaceful and lawful resolution. The 2016 ruling was a landmark victory for the Philippines, with the tribunal declaring China's expansive claims invalid under international law and affirming the Philippines' rights in its EEZ. However, China outright rejected the ruling, dismissing it as illegitimate, and has continued its activities in the disputed waters, building artificial islands and increasing patrols. As a result, the conflict plays out daily on the water, with Filipino fishermen and Chinese Coast Guard vessels in constant tense proximity. Each encounter a reminder of the high stakes involved for both nations. The outcome of this ongoing struggle will not only determine the future of the South China Sea, but also set a precedent for how international law is respected, or ignored, in one of the world's most vital maritime regions. The U.S. is not a claimant in the South China Sea but is involved due to a decades-old alliance with the Philippines. The Mutual Defense Treaty binds the U.S. to defend the Philippines if attacked. The U.S. conducts freedom of navigation operations to challenge China's claims. These operations assert that the seas are open to all. The U.S. provides military aid and conducts joint exercises with the Philippines. Diplomacy is key, with the U.S. condemning China's aggressive actions. The U.S. builds a coalition to support the Philippines and uphold international law. This involvement sends a powerful signal of support for its ally. U.S. involvement is about standing by an ally and maintaining trust with other allies. The Philippines is America's oldest treaty ally in Asia. Upholding the treaty is about showing that America's promises are reliable. Freedom of navigation is a core interest for the U.S. The U.S. economy depends on the free flow of commerce across the seas. The South China Sea is a major international waterway. The U.S. defends a global rule that benefits all nations. The U.S. sees this as a defense of the international rules-based order. Supporting the Philippines reinforces the idea that international law applies to all. It's a stand for a world governed by rules, not might. For Filipinos, this ongoing geopolitical struggle has real and tangible consequences. Coastal communities heavily depend on fishing for their livelihoods and survival. Chinese vessels blocking fishing grounds seriously threaten their traditional way of life. This creates significant economic pressure and threatens food security. The conflict fuels rising nationalism and influences local politics. For Americans, the impact is less direct but still significant. U.S. military operations in the region are funded by American taxpayers. A conflict with China would have catastrophic and far-reaching global consequences. However, U.S. support can create a more stable environment for investment in the Philippines. A stable Philippines is a reliable partner for the U.S. in this critical region. The future of the South China Sea is unwritten. The Philippines, with U.S. support, is becoming more assertive. It's building alliances with other countries to resist China's pressure. China views control over the sea as a core national interest. It uses gray zone tactics to harass and intimidate. The U.S. role remains pivotal, requiring constant presence and investment. Diplomacy is essential to avoid unintended conflict. The world needs a strong defense of rules and a way to de-escalate tensions. This is a story about the kind of world we will live in. The outcome will define the security and prosperity of the Indo-Pacific for decades.